Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And this story that I'm doing today, I'm not even going to do my normal intro that I do on my videos. I'm going to get right to this particular story. When you're talking about governmental egregiousness, hypocrisy, dichotomy, what the government is doing with its spending is a slap in the face of its American taxpayers and citizens that live in this country, this first world country. You're not going to believe this story about Trump's administration and the Pentagon and its spending binge that set a record last September of 2025, which was the end of the fiscal year for its budget. Trump's administration and the Pentagon spent $93 billion in 1 month, in the month of September, which is the end of their fiscal year. $93 billion. And I'm going to tell you this story. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, The Trevor Donald Experience. But before we get into it, man, here in the Midwest in St. Louis, boy, this weather has turned for the better. Today is Friday, March the 20th, which is the birth of my mother, who has been deceased since 1981. She would have been 78 years old. But today is 86 degrees. It's supposed to get a high of 86. Saturday is supposed to be a high of 84. And Sunday, a high of 89 degrees. Spring is here, people. Time to put your t-shirts, your polo shirts, your polo shorts on, and let's start enjoying this weather and exercising outside. So let's get back into this story about the Trump administration and the Pentagon spending binge. Use it or lose it. $93 billion in 1 month, just the month of September of 2025, not the entire fiscal year. Our government spent $93 billion in 1 month. And guess what they were spending the money on? Steaks, lobster tails, pianos, etc. Now, mind you, when our government spent $93 billion last September, 1 month, where was DOGE? D-O-G-E, the Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon Musk? Nowhere in sight. I know that that Doge situation only lasted a short period of time, but we need Doge back, or we need some kind of accounting or some kind of checks and balances on this excessive spending. It makes no sense. It's hypocritical. We have our government, our U.S. federal budget deficit for the fiscal year of 2025 total $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion. Mind you, it just recently been reported that Elon Musk is worth $800 billion. Him alone. Elon Musk is worth more than the U.S. government. He could loan the government some money. This is such a weird, arrogant, egregious system that we live in. Right now, we are in our second government shutdown. There's been 2 government shutdowns in the last 6 months. TSA workers at airports are not being paid. Flight delays, airplanes that are being delayed, being shuttered, airplanes being grounded, people at the airports, long delays, people are not getting paid. Again, the second time in 6 months. When we print money all day long, whether it was during the pandemic, we influxed $1 to $2 trillion into the marketplace to take care of folks during the government shutdown. We print money. Money isn't even real. It's just a push of a button. Now they're saying with this war with the U.S., Israel versus Iran, that the Pentagon is looking for $200 billion to support this war. Now, in the Biden administration, we gave billions of dollars for the Ukraine and Russia conflict and war. We gave billions of dollars with the Gaza Strip war with Israel and Hamas. here again, we're just printing money, printing money, printing money. And who's to blame? We have to blame the system. This is not just Trump. Every administration has to spend an X number of dollars by the end of that fiscal year in order to get that same amount of money, if not more, the next year. So billions, whether it's Democrat or Republican, Biden or Trump, billions of dollars are being spent in the final fiscal month of every year. Billions, while we have homelessness, helplessness, joblessness, the opioid crisis. It is ridiculous. So it's not just the president. It is the entire governmental system, Congress, the Senate, these people that we're electing into office, and look at how they are thumbing their nose at the average American citizen. It's about the haves and the have-nots, the disparities between the rich and the poor. And mind you, remember, with them spending $93 billion in 1 month, remember, through Doge, the Trump administration was all about federal cuts, cutting Medicaid, cutting food stamps, cutting the federal workforce with massive layoffs in governmental agencies, people losing their jobs. That's what Doge is all about. And it's amazing how our government can go, we're talking about excesses and overspending. It's amazing how Doge looked at efficiency, but there's all these other ways where they can find money, print money to support the things that rich folks want to support. So let's get into this story. Please like, share, listen to this crazy story on what our government and President Trump and the Pentagon spent $93 billion in 1 month, not a year, of last year in the final days of his fiscal year. So Pentagon spending in September of 2025 included nearly $9 million in Alaskan king crabs and lobster tails, more than $200 million in furniture, and $5.3 million in Apple devices. Just some of the expenditures that added up to a record $93 billion price tag for the month of September, not a year, according to a new analysis published by government watchdog Open the Books. September 2025 spending at governmental agencies typically dwarfs other months because it marks the end of the fiscal year. So the governmental fiscal year ends in September, not December. That's when use it or lose it funding rules kick in for departments rushing to spend the remainder of their budget so as to not forfeit the unused money and have to send it back to the Treasury Department while we have a $1.8 trillion deficit. So if you don't use it, send it back to the Treasury Department. Get this budget deficit down. Help these folks that need assistance. But according to Open the Books, no federal agency has ever spent, now this is the Trump administration, no federal agency has ever spent so much on grants and contracts in a single month as the Pentagon's $93.4 billion in September 2025. More than half of that was spent in the final 5 days of the month of September, the watchdog site says. 5 days, $93 billion. The expensive month comes as President Donald Trump has made. Now here's the hypocrisy and the dichotomy, and the American government thumbing its nose at the American citizens and our American dream. The expensive month comes as President Donald Trump has made cutting government spending a focal point of his second term. Cutting government spending, but they spend $93 billion in 1 month. Cutting the federal workforce last year with massive layoffs across federal agencies. At the time, Trump has called for huge increases to the Pentagon's budget, posting in January that the 2027 fiscal year budget should be $1.5 trillion, a roughly 50% increase. He wants the Pentagon's budget to be $1.5 trillion. Mind you, our fiscal deficit is $1.8 trillion. This money is not even real. He said this will allow us to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to and for, more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure regardless of foes. The September 2025 spending included a record 6.6 billion of purchases from foreign governments, 6.6 billion from foreign governments and foreign-owned businesses, smashing the previous high of 5.2 billion from September 2023. The money spent on shellfish and steak, more than 15 million on ribeyes, according to the open books, was likely for troops on extended deployment ahead of the current war in Iran. Secretary Pete Hegseth said these are not for parties for Hegseth and his buddies, said Jerry McGinn, the director of the Center for the Industrial Base at the Center for Strategic and International Studies think tank. You're doing something nice for the troops. Often described as a surf and turf meal, it's a tradition in military culture as a symbolic precursor to deployments, combat operations, or extended missions. The food products bought in September also typically cover holiday meals, including Thanksgiving. So this is a surf and turf for people that are going, military folks that are going on deployment. You might want to call this also, this could be also called the last meal for some of these military people that are going off into these wars, into these possible death situations with all these wars we created. So this could almost be like a last meal, I guess. Christmas and New Year's meals for service members deployed those days. The steak and lobster dinners are meant to be a thank you to the troops. When asked if lobster being served during deployments had a place for morale boosting purposes, one retired Army officer with multiple combat tours told CNN, "I mean, it's always disgusting, but I guess." And I'm not done yet. In addition to the 225.6 million in furniture expenditures, purchases that typically spike in September, regardless of presidential administration, musical instruments they bought cost 1.8 million. That included a $98,329 Steinway & Sons grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home, a $26,000 violin, and a $21,750 custom handmade flute from the luxury Japanese brand Muramatsu. Can you believe this? McGinn said governmental agencies typically reserve bulk orders of furniture and technology for September to use up the rest of the budget. Adding to this is not uncommon. And lastly, because the Department of Defense's budget was under a continuing resolution, a funding stopgap from Congress that keeps the budget at the previous fiscal year's level until the new one is approved. This is all about our egregious system. We have to blame our president, our Senate, and our Congress and change these laws and rules.